2 years, if you've lived in the Temecula Valley, you knew that the third weekend in a certain month meant you'd wake up, walk outside, get your coffee. There'd be dozens of balloons. There would be literally dozens of them at your house. And unfortunately, that is now gone, and they've terminated the contract with the Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Festival. For 42 years, it is now over, which I know for some is good. Some of them are like, they are hating it. And it's not because of the economy or a pandemic or anything of that nature. It's because it ended over a $76,000 invoice. I posted this over on Instagram and Shorts, and the comments went absolutely insane. I mean, I had almost 300 comments. Some of you were heartbroken. Some of you were furious. Some said good riddance and stopped, being for locals years ago. And a whole bunch of said that this is the version of what California has become. So today I want to do what nobody in that comment section did, and I want to lay out exactly what happened, who's actually responsible, and then answer some real questions underneath it all. And the one people relocating here just keep emailing me about if Temecula lost its biggest tradition, or if it's still a town that you guys still want to move to. So I have a very strong opinion on that, so stick with me to the end. And I just want to say, I've never seen some post go and be so controversial. So real quick, just so you guys know who you're talking to, if you haven't watched any of the other videos, I'm Paige Hardy Hill with the Hardy Group, and we're powered by Real Broker, and we're a family business for over 20 years. We moved out here in 2005 from Orange County, and I work with my mother, Jill, so we're not just some weirdo transplant that moved here yesterday. Actually, I've been here for a really long time, and I've seen it grow absolutely bonkers. I went to this festival when I was in high school. So here's the plan for the next few minutes. First, the actual timeline of how a 42-year-old institution collapsed, and it's a wilder story than most people realize. And then who's really to blame? Because the comment section got mostly that wrong. Of course, social media for you. And what it actually means for the valley, money, tourism, ripple effect, and then the part that matters if you're thinking about moving here, what it does, what it doesn't tell you about, and where Temecula is headed. So stay for the last part, because I think most people are drawing the exact wrong conclusion from this, and it's literally not what you think. So let's get into it. What the festival actually was. It was an old festival, that started 42 years ago. Balloon, hence the balloons, and wine. Obviously, we got the wine. So let's start with what we lost, because if you're new here, you might not understand the scale of it. The Balloon and Wine Festival in Temecula at Lake Skinner was founded in 1983, and it bounced around a few spots. It later, settled in the Lake Skinner that we know, and the Recreation Center out of Winchester in 89. And that's where most of us remember it, of course, because it wasn't anywhere but that since 1989. And so it pulled in roughly 30,000 people every year, hot air balloons launching at sunrise over the lake, wine from local valley and wineries, live music for the whole weekend. So it basically brought in about $1.5 million into the economy, when it first started, of course. And it wasn't just a party. Historically, the event pushed over, $1.5 million into the local economy, like I said, and it operated as a nonprofit with a mission. So money went back into the community, organizations, school programs, scholarships, local groups, you name it. It was definitely a nonprofit back in the day. So that's the thing. I don't think the who cares, it was just a flea market cover band that the crowd truly appreciated. And yeah, later down the road, it got a lot more commercial, as everything does. But underneath it, it was still the funneling real money into our community, kids, and local nonprofits for over 4 decades. And that's what's gone. So let's talk about how and what actually happened. So the sequence, and what I kind of want to walk through slowly because the order matters, is very dramatic around here. Step one, in 2025, the festival got sold to a company called events.com, and they acquired it, new ownership, new leadership, and big changes were announced right away. And by big, they eliminated the morning launches from the festival grounds. And I'm going to say that again because it's funny. They took the balloons out of the Balloon and Wine Festival. Like, what are we doing, people? And what was left was the evening balloon glows at sunset, which, don't get me wrong, were really pretty. But, the whole point was them going up in the morning. And it's not the same. It's not the same as the morning time when you're drinking your coffee and, like, you're sat just in a residential home in Temecula and you see the balloons pop up. And then the music. It always been a mix, country, rock, soul, a bit of everything. And the new ownership went 100% country. They expanded to multiple stages. They added like an outpost honky tonk with line dancing, mechanical bull, and added a full bar alongside the wine and craft beer. So you know what that is like when you add a full bar to a bunch of people down here in Riverside County. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not here to tell you that country music's bad. I do love a good old country. But the 42-year-old event got repositioned to something that was in my comments were like stage Coachella. And the community felt the shift immediately. I mean, if you live here and you have for a while, you know. Step 2, bills don't get paid. The 2025 festival happens, then Riverside County Parks Department sends an invoice for the use of Lake Skinner. Doesn't get paid. Events.com doesn't pay it. And that invoice with interest and penalties tacked on climbs about $76,000. $76,100 owed to Riverside County Parks. I mean, come on, you're coming into using like the parks and you're not going to pay for it. And it wasn't just the parks. It was outstanding balances for like the sheriff's department, fire services, other providers at the agencies that the staff at an event with 30,000 people were on the ground. Like I saw some of the comments and people were like, yeah, we didn't get paid, like da-da-da-da-da. And step 3, silence. The festival's website and social media went quiet after August of 25 and it just stayed quiet. The last time I was there in 24, it was fun. I had a good old time. And through the fall into the spring, like nothing. No, we're restructuring, literally ghost town. And step 4, March 24, 26, the Riverside Board of Supervisor votes 5-0 to terminate the contract. Formal termination, April 30th, 2026. 42 years, we done, guys. That's it. So if you're ever wondering like what happened, I'm here to tell you this is basically what happened. $76, really, threw it away. And then step 5, which almost nobody hears about. 2 days after the vote, a spokesperson for the festival came out and they said the final debt payouts were scheduled to be completed that April. She said the new ownership had actually invested $3.4 million trying to stabilize the transition. And she said that organizers intended to come back at Lake Skinner on a fall date, to her words, bring back the tradition of the wine and entertainment and community loves. Right. So I suppose we'll see kind of what happens with that. I think. I don't know. This video is being recorded August of 26. This was supposed to be in April. I don't know. And that was contingent on 2 things: clearing all the debts. I'm a real person, you guys. Clearing all the debts, negotiating a new facility with the county Riverside Parks. So where does that stand? So as I'm filming this, nothing, like I said. No new agreement, nothing's been announced, no fall event, nothing for 27, and the festival's website's still frozen on 25 content. Maybe something's happening behind the scenes, but honestly, 5 months later from the outside, it looks like an intention hasn't turned into a date. They're just really trying to get out of $76,000, which I'm pretty sure events.com is like a gajillion-dollar company. So what we want to know, whose fault is it? Because we always want to blame somebody, huh? So this is kind of where my comment section turned into like a war. So let me just address it head on. A big chunk of you blamed California, the economy, the taxes, the state, the government. Nothing's affordable here anymore in the Golden State. That comment alone got dozens of replies. A bunch of you fired right back. One guy said, I'm paraphrasing, but only barely. This has nothing to do with the government or the economy. The people who put the event on didn't pay their bills. That's it. Spot on, sir. Can't remember who you are, but yes, that is exactly what happened. And here's my honest read, and I'm going to be fair to both sides, although if you know me, you kind of know who I am, right? Second group is more right on the facts. This was not a case of beloved local event getting regulated or taxed out of existence. The county didn't shut it down. A private company bought a community institution, changed the things that the people came for, apparently didn't pay the people who made an event possible, and then went silent for 8 months. And the county terminated a contract with a partner who wasn't paying. That's not California. That's just a business decision, and it was a really bad one. I mean, they probably shouldn't have sold, but honestly, those people probably made a lot of money, so I guess I can kind of see it from a business decision. Whatever, events.com made a really bad choice. But the first group isn't crazy either. I want to give them their due, because the reason a 42-year-old nonprofit mission festival got sold to an outside events company in the first place, that's a harder question. Running a large-scale outdoor event in California 2026 is genuinely expensive. Insurance, permitting, public safety, staffing, the vendor costs, like the pressures are real, and the part why local volunteer traditions still were running all over the state, and they got absorbed by bigger operations. So the frustration underneath that the comment is legitimate, even though the specific blame is actually landing somewhere else. Then, this was my favorite thread of them all. And it was a bunch of you guys saying, let's make it a community event again. Not a wannabe festival, mega event, a Temecula Valley run by people who actually live here in the Temecula Valley. That comment got more likes than almost anything else on the post, which, I mean, living here, and I've been here for so long, I'm totally down for that. It's so nice to have events that we live and work here in the same town, you know? It's just so nice. You can just like pop on over. Oh, I'm going to Temecula Valley Balloon and Wine Festival this weekend. Get a babysitter. And I think that's the right instinct. And I think, you know, we'll come back to that. But what did it actually, like what this actually cost the Valley? Okay. And this is important to understand as well. So let's talk about the real world impact, because it's not just sentimental. 30,000 people once a year coming into the Valley for the weekend. That's hotel rooms, that's restaurants that cover Old Town, that's tasting rooms, winery, that's Ubers, people's income, gas stations, gift shops. That's $1 million that we get from tourism into the Valley. And and it's the nonprofit money too. The community organizations and school programs that were getting a check from this event are now not getting a check from this event. So it really does more harm than good being gone. And I just want to be careful here, and I don't want to overstate, because I promise you the honest version. Is this a catastrophe for the Valley and the economy? No. And here's the context that gives you like the right scale. The Temecula Valley's tourism industry generates roughly $1.2 billion in direct travel spending, and it did in 2025, and supports about 9,600 jobs and about $53 million in direct tax revenue. Okay. So yes, it does contribute a lot for a 2-day festival, but against the other things that we've got going on, I mean, it's, I guess, not big in hindsight. So against the $1 billion tourism economy and a, $1.5 million festival is real, and it matters and it hurts, but it's obviously not holding up like what's popping in the Valley. The wine country is really what is putting a lot of dollars into the economy. Old Town, Pechanga, the wineries, tasting rooms that run every single weekend, every single day of the year. The Balloon and Wine Festival was a headline, and it was never like the whole entire newspaper, if you get my vibe. So it stinks. I hope they do bring back something that is very similar. Doesn't have to be the same. Doesn't have to be like a country vibe, but I mean, it's just nice because that's kind of like the history. So what brings me to the question that I actually got asked, I had somebody under contract on a home here and messaged me half joking. Did I just buy into a town that's losing its identity? Like, nah, dude, you are not. Here's the answer, and I'll give it to you the honest version, as I always do. You guys know that Paige will always give it to you truthful. So no, and I don't think the cancellation actually proves the opposite of what people think it proves, okay? So watch what happened. A big outside company bought a local institution, stripped out the part that made it local, the Sunrise Balloons, repackaged it as a generic country music festival, and it kind of fell apart inside of one cycle. And when it fell apart, the loudest reaction from the community was not, oh, well, it was 300 people arguing passionately in my comment section about what this town is supposed to be. And that's actually really awesome that people came through and said, hey, man, this is not a town that's losing its identity. This is a town that has a strong identity and enough to reject something that it wasn't. Nobody wanted the events.com. We wanted to keep it small. And here's the practical part. Everything that actually makes people move to the Temecula Valley is completely untouched by this, which is good. You know, like I would say good riddance to events.com. We don't want you here. The wine country is still here, 40 plus wineries. It's the tasting rooms. We don't need a festival. Old Town Temecula is still there. You got Stampede. You got all these different other things, and it's still popping. And it's still throwing events every weekend. The Rod Run car show and, you know, Father's Day car shows in Old Town. Pachanga still doing concerts, comedy shows, hosting tons of local employment. The schools, Temecula Valley Unified, it's still excellent. And it's the number one reason why families relocate anywhere. It's not the Balloon and Wine Festival, y'all. And the Valley's still here. You're still an hour inland from San Diego, Orange County, getting dramatically more home for your dollar. And that's one you'd get on the coast. Nobody's moving to Temecula for 1 week a year. People are moving here for the other 51 weeks, okay? And what I actually think happens next. All right, so here's my read. There are 30,000 people whole, I guess I could say, in this Valley's event calendar, and it's a very clear, demonstrated, appetite to fill it. Late Skinner is still there, the balloon operators are still there, and you can still book a private sunrise balloon over the vineyards any morning you want, and honestly, it's a better experience than the festival version probably ever was anyway. And you can still fly, you know, if you want a private ride, just contact one of the local guys. And remember, the original organizers did say they want to come back. So there are really 3 different ways that we can go about this. Old operator clears its debts, signs a new agreement with the county and returns, or somebody builds something that will build that gap, or just stays a hole. Nothing happens. That weekend just null and void. Nothing happens ever again. My hope is that the top comment again, and this is the top comment, is whatever comes back is local, run by people who live here, with the balloons, sunrise where it belongs, with the nonprofit vision that it was from the get-go. And if and when that happens, you'll hear about it on this channel first, because that's exactly the kind of things that I like to cover with local news. And here's why it matters to me, besides being sad about seeing balloons, even though from my house I can't actually really see them, but that's a whole different story. This whole story is a really good example of something I tell every single person who's relocating here. The internet doesn't know the Valley. You can search Temecula and get a headline that says 42 tradition just died and doesn't actually give you the entire details, and it completely draws the wrong conclusion about what it's actually like to live here. So the stuff that determines whether you'll love it or not is which neighborhood that fits you, which school boundary you want to be in, and what's your monthly payment look like, if that's important. If there's taxes that you want to be aware of, HOA, none of that shows up in the headline. And that's something that I like to make sure that my clients really, really understand and that they know. So if you're thinking about moving to the Temecula Valley, please like and subscribe. Even if you're 6 to 12 months out, we're here. And you're not just talking to somebody who got here yesterday. I've lived here for over 20 years, and I know exactly where somebody would need to land. And I'll tell you the truth. So you can always reach out to us, like or subscribe, like I said, or our information is below. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.